Hey everybody, ModelMan, and here is another in the surgery series. The first one was the DY100 Whitefish Bay. Some things had broken off of that when I moved. This problem is a little older and a little more fundamental and definitely trickier. An initial problem was that these couple power leads coming out of here were really delicate, and that one broke, and these two are pretty frail as well. In fact, there goes that one right there. So rather than having two separate powers setups on the top and bottom, I'm going to have a single setup that simply plugs from in between. So I'm going to carve a nice good sized hole in here, and I'm hoping this is going to work right. But I'll put a nice big hole in the top and the bottom for one power lead, and that will simply plug into the regular power, which I don't have on me. And as a review, there are 4 to 6 red LEDs, possibly a white one inside the cabinet there. 2 red fiber optics here in the front, 4 in the back for the engines. And initially my idea was to hold this all together with magnets. However, I wasn't using especially strong ones at the time, so this wound up being all glued together. Yeah, definitely. So my plan of strategy here is to cut in here, hopefully leave the magnets at each of these ends in place because they do hold these parts on. And I will probably upgrade those magnets because they are some of the weaker standard craft magnets rather than neodymiums. However, they do their job pretty well. Stuff does stay in place. But, well, no, that stays in place pretty darn good. I don't have to replace the magnets at all. But I do got to replace this wiring. So let's get the Dremel out. So let's try a slightly different viewing angle here. It occurred to me that I should probably go over how I'm going to cut into this. While I could probably X-Acto my way down in there, I like power tools, so I'm going to go with them. There are several options there too. There's this 1.5 inch, and I did mention surgery, but I'm not looking for amputations here, so this is definitely going to be too big overall. And you can see the size by the time you cut in here, this is just far too big. I next thought of this one here, but even that's a little too large. So what I'm going to do is start off on the cautious side with this little paper sander cutter grinder kind of thing. One thing I'm also realizing is that the work angles in here are kind of tight. There's really, I mean, this would be great if I was cutting this way, but I really need to cut down here, so let's see what the handy grip thing can help us out with here. Yeah, so this might work out a little better. I want to go relatively fast, so I'm setting this up to probably 15,000-20,000. Maybe 25. So the angle here doesn't quite work, but let's see what we can do. So it looks like I've already hit magnet. And this cutter is loose. I see what's going on. Alright. And I think I can do the rest by hand here. So, if they're not completely destroyed yet, they are now. Let's see what we got here. The kit's still smoking. Alright, so these two wires are hardwired to this piece of plastic right here. So, I don't quite have a snips handy, but... So I've got positive and negative leads right there, which is very helpful. Ugh, these magnets. I don't know if I'll be able to pull those out of there. They have been good enough, but I'd rather put some stronger ones in there, but I think I'd have to pull this entire assembly apart, and that's no good at all. Let's see what alternatives present themselves as time goes by. I did slightly damage these two sides here when I did that cross. Looks like more on the bottom, more on the top than on the bottom, unfortunately. But they are very minor nicks. And as I want to sell this, I will fix them. And I've got a positive connection. Oh, what did I put in there? Oh, I see. So I was wondering how, I was thinking I'd just put a bunch of putty around this tube here, and basically this is for the stand. So you can set the model facing top or bottom. And I'm just realizing I actually have a little square of wood in there that I drilled through to get that precise hole. So it looks like what I gotta do now is still pick away some of this plastic. And this I will use an X-Acto on, if I knew where it was. And I could find it. So these wires feel really taut, so there's not going to be any leeway here at all. And it looks like what I'll have to do is I was thinking I might have to connect these two wires, but they should do the same thing. So I may only need to free one set of wires, and then I can let the other two hang loose, essentially. Having the magnet in here keeps pulling the pliers away from me, or the snippers rather. So while this was certainly an inventive idea I had a couple years ago when I did it, it's not very practical. However, I am glad to see that surgery of this sort here is possible, and not too difficult so far. Yeah, so I think I'd have to completely destroy this entire area to pull those magnets out. I don't want to do that. If there was a way to leave the back here, no, I'd still need to leave a ledge. So it looks like those magnets are staying. So another big problem I had in making this is that I use solid core wire, which is going to be much more fragile over the long run. I'd have to pull the entire model apart to replace that. There's no point in that. It's good enough, and once I connect it to a new connector, everything will be fine. So I'm going to go get the power supply and we'll test this to make sure I haven't already destroyed it.